What is going on, nerds? It's been too long. We are going to go over the state of the Andrew Yang NYC mayoral race. We have a new poll that came out recently. We're going to look at betting odds, news coverage, social media trends, and we are also going to look at what Andrew's talking about. And then, if time permits, we will hit some national political issues and take some questions. But before, we got to get it started with Andrew himself. Oops. That didn't work. There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, is and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Hello, nerds! Nerds for humanity. My goodness. It has been a long week, so sorry I haven't seen you all in a while. But we're going to have a live stream tomorrow talking about the history of Asian American hate, not just in the last couple of weeks, but more so in the last century or so. So it's going to be a historical look. So if any of you guys are truly into kind of the big picture, tune in tomorrow morning Pacific time. I will be live, and we're going to have an expert talk about that. Before we get into that, let me just ask everybody, where are you guys joining from? I'm coming to you on a beautiful sunny day in Northern California. Elizabeth Norris, welcome back. Good to see you again, Elizabeth. Let's see, today I'm going to take the dog for a nice hike. Oh, I think Mrs. Nerd wants me to bring a bunch of stuff to the recycling station. So, very exciting dad weekend. Take the dog and the kids on a hike and then go to the recycling station. Oh, Tim Smalls from Mississippi. Welcome, Tim. All right. So, shall we get in to the Andrew Yang for mayor race? Is it a done deal or not? Let's take a look at the data, because there was a poll that came out. I know a lot of people were sharing out some of the highlights, but this is the Nerds channel, so we're going to go into a much deeper, detailed review of that latest polling data, because that's why you come here. Tybee is from Seattle, Washington. Welcome, Tybee. Or is it Tibby? Yes, anti-Asian hate. Yeah, we're going to have a full, detailed review of that one tomorrow. And just so you know, it's going to be with, let me make sure I get the name correct. It's going to be with Dr. Steph Hinnershitz, who has written extensively about the history of Asian American hate. Going back to the Chinese Exclusion Act, the inability of Asian Americans to vote until, fairly recently. Basically a little bit more, as much as we like to point out that Donald Trump didn't help the situation, Asian American hate has not been, he didn't invent it. He may have fanned those flames, but like many things, Trump really doesn't invent things. He just kind of manipulates them. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, we have, oh, hey, Daniel. What's up? All right, American Jobs Factory. Don't forget to subscribe to American Jobs Factory. He's been helping us a lot with promoting ofthepeople.us, which I'll give you guys an update on as well if you're interested. Okay, let's get into the polling data. Let's see here. I'm going to go share. Boom. Wow, it works. I'm getting good with this. I know that's Murphy's Law. Now it's totally going to blow up, but whatever. We'll see if this holds up.
All right, so this poll was conducted around March 15th to 18th, and they were from the NYC voter file, likely voters who say they are registered Democrats, and they will either definitely or probably vote in the June primary. I wonder if you guys really need to see this thing on the left. I don't think you really care about. There we go. How do you like them apples? Okay. So, methodology, called a bunch of people, 842. Okay, generally speaking, would you say things in New York are in the right direction, wrong track, not sure? 1 out of 3 think New York is on the wrong track, and about half think it's in the right direction. So definitely sounds like a hunger to kind of turn things around for New York. And specifically, the issues that are most interesting to New Yorkers are vaccine distribution, extremely, 91% think it's either extremely or very important. Public education is number 2. Right, almost tied with jobs and homelessness and healthcare. Wow, Jesus. Look at this. The next 6 issues are all in the kind of 80% range. Education, jobs, homelessness, healthcare, excluding COVID, crime, and reopening. And then you've got police reform, climate change, housing, and public transportation. So if you're running for mayor, probably COVID, education, and jobs, in the spirit of just focusing on 2 or 3 things. That's probably what we're going to see a lot of the candidates focus on. Vaccine, education, jobs. Okay. It's been a year since COVID. A year from now, how do you think things in New York City will be? Oh, by the way, JC is saying things in NYC are bad, and he lives in Brooklyn. Well, JC, 37% think a year from now things will be better than they were prior to the pandemic, and 20% thinks they will be basically equal to pre-pandemic. So hopefully you are part of that optimistic crowd. So about 60%, 58% think it'll be the same or better than pre-COVID. Interestingly enough, 25%, 1 in 4, think it will be as bad as it is today. Wow, that's some pessimism there. By golly, I hope they're not the same as today a year from now. But I guess we'll see. Ranked choice voting. How much have you heard or seen about ranked choice voting? And in March, wow, 60% heard not much or nothing at all. So I wonder if how that's going to go down, if they're going to be surprised about this new voting method on their ballot. Hopefully they'll figure out what to do. JC is saying, hey, we don't have the greatest leadership with Cuomo, de Blasio, AOC, and Nadler. Yeah, those are not exactly winning any leadership awards lately. Now, let's see. Tell me if this is someone you've heard of. So name recognition. Who has number 1 name recognition? Andrew M to the F to the Yang has the highest name recognition of anyone running. Maybe that's why Eric Adams and Stringer are so kind of pissed at him, because they're probably like, hey man, I've been in New York City politics. I've been in the bowels of New York City politics for decades. And then this guy, kind of shows up And now he's like the Pied Piper. I guess that would be their argument. I think in reality, Yang has lived in New York City for like 15 years. So it's not like he just moved there from, LA or something. But yeah, number one name recognition is the Yangster. Okay, if the primary were held today, who would you vote for? Number one would be Yang, but not by like a landslide. Look at this. In January, he was 28%. Oh, so here's like a little bit of warning to the Yang gang. The number one choice of Andrew Yang has slipped. I don't know if this is a headline I've seen in the Yang gang media, but he has slipped from 28% saying he was their top choice to 16%. So has Adams. Adams has slipped from 17 to 10. And then who has gained? Shoot. A little bit of McGuire. Basically, we went from 19% undecided to 50%. So we've gone sort of in the opposite direction that you would have expected. I'm not sure why. Now, there's a little asterisk here, so let's read the fine print. January survey choices included name and description for each candidate. January candidate also included a bunch of other people. Yeah, no, that's not fundamentally changing the takeaway from here. So if you are Andrew Yang's campaign, that's not a great trend that you've dropped. You could convince yourself that, well, hey, everybody's dropped. But why would you go from 19% undecided in January to 50% in March, right? That's interesting. So I'm guessing the Yang for NY campaign is not resting on their laurels, and they're hearing. Now, NSRC is saying, hey, the methodology was different and the questionnaire was different, so you're comparing apples and oranges. Maybe. That could be. That would be a very good outcome if that were the explanation of the difference. But even if you don't compare January to March, NSRC, let's just look at the March data as it is. 50% are undecided. That number. Forget that it went from 19 to 50 being undecided. Just assume that all we know is that 50% in March of likely NYC Democratic voters do not know who they're going to vote for. And this is only 3 months from the primary. So, and yes, Yang is numero uno, but 16% is not exactly a landslide. So that's that. Now let's see here. How strength of support. So if you liked Yang, 48% of Yang supporters are definitely Yang supporters, but 60% of Adams supporters are hardcore Adams. And then everybody else is, Wiley is around 50. Who has the weakest support among their first choice voters? It would be Garcia. Only 31% of people who ranked her as their first choice are definitely going to stick with her. And only 28% of McGuire first choice supporters are definitely. So a lot of like soft support, but hand it to Adams. 60% are definitely. And then if you say definitely and probably combined, 98, very, very similar between Yang and Adams when you combine the two. For second choice support, among those who indicate a candidate preference, among the 16% who say Yang is their first choice, most likely second choice is going to be Adams. For the people who want Adams, most likely second choice is going to be Yang, so that's nice. For those who like the Wiley, most likely second choice is going to be the Yang. For those who like Stringer, most likely second choice is barely the Yang. McGuire goes to Adams. Donovan goes to Adams. Garcia goes to Stringer. Morales goes to Stringer. So, what's the takeaway here? I think the takeaway is that this is a dogfight between Yang and Adams. That would be my takeaway. And that maybe you could argue you could see Stringer collecting a lot of the long tail support and suddenly becoming a little bit more interesting. Stringer right now, where is Stringer? Stringer is, he's only got 5. I don't know if that long tail support that would flow to him would really change things. Maybe if we dig deep into Adams supporters, if they don't go to Yang, they go to Stringer. But look at this. For Yang supporters, if their 50% are hard pressed to yes, Mocha Lex NYC is using ranked choice voting. So 50% of Yang supporters are not really sure. They're like Yang or nothing. Whereas most of the other candidates are very happy. Most of the other supporters of other candidates are very happy to support someone else. But the Yang supporters are like, man, I don't know. If not Yang, I'm not sure who I'm going to put for my second choice. So, maybe the other takeaway is that the Yang base is pretty strong. And there's probably a lot of people who are going to participate who may not have previously participated in New York City local elections. So that's nice that Yang is kind of activating a broader base of support within the city. Demographics.
Hello, nerds!
Oh, Sasha has become a Nerds for Humanity member. Thank you, Sasha Alexandra. Let me get my little cowbell. Ugh. Welcome, Sasha. Thank you for being a member, Sasha. Remember, all member moolah goes to investing in just producing more content. I don't use it to buy any Ferraris or even pay for my living expenses. I am able to do that with my day job. So all of the support for this channel goes back into content, like the software I'm using to stream right now. Okay, now let's see if we have... So we had a bunch of demographic, but I'm wondering if they have crosstabs. Oh, they didn't give it. Boo, Pulse of Primary. You didn't give us the crosstabs. So I was trying to see like, oh, how's Yang doing with different ethnic groups? But I'm guessing Pulse of the Primary doesn't think people like crosstabs, but I do. Well, so that's it. So the takeaway for this poll is that the Yangster is still numero uno, but half of the people are undecided, and the Adams is no joke. And, he's got some strong support. 60% love him. 60% of the people who support him really support him. Around 50% of those who support Yang really support Yang. However, half of Yang voters do not know who they would put as their second choice, so they generally are going to be Yang or nothing types. But, yeah, so that's it for the polls. Now let's look at news coverage. Yes, Tamar is correct. Please remember to hit the like button. And appreciate your help spreading the word. So like, share, subscribe. If you really like this stuff, think about becoming a member like Sasha Alexandra just did. All right, now let's look at news coverage. What is in the news about the Yang? So what we have here is Andrew Yang speaks truth to teachers in mayor's race. Okay, so this is where I think Yang, maybe not surprisingly, has been willing to kind of test sort of traditional Democratic, red lines or third rails. And he's actually said, hey, these teachers unions need to, sort of be a little bit more flexible in working about, I think it's about reopening schools. But let me kind of dig into that actual article. Let's see. Andrew Yang must have seen this coming. Oh, yeah, the third rail, like I was just saying. Teachers unions. He grabbed the third rail with both hands. I will confess to being a parent that has been frustrated by how slow our schools have been to open. And I do believe that the UFT has been a significant reason why our schools have been slow to open. Now let me know in the chat, do you think that is suicidal for Andrew Yang to question the whether the teachers unions are being cooperative and helpful in reopening the schools, and if they're being reasonable? Or so did he just kind of like shoot himself in the foot, and now all of the voters are going to go to Adams? Or do you think Yang is being Yang and just keeping it real? I think it's the latter. I think voters will appreciate that he's willing to say, hey, unions are great, but they're not perfect. And in this case, there should be more sort of partnership on reopening. So maybe we'll look back in the future at this statement and say, wow, look, a Democrat can challenge a union and still be pro-union, but we'll see. So that's the union stuff. New York Magazine, Yang is driving the race right now. Anti-Asian attacks place Andrew Yang in the spotlight. How will he use it? Adams gets a union endorsement. Andrew Yang's celebrity will dwindle at the polls, Maya Wiley says. So I think Maya's saying, hey, he's not a real candidate. He's kind of a celebrity. Kind of like what I think the Democrats were saying about Obama when he was running against McCain. Like, oh, he's a celebrity. He's not like, don't take him seriously. Yes, I did just compare Andrew Yang to Obama. I don't know. I don't think it's that far of a stretch. A fresh voice, new energy, new generation. But let's see what she said. I'm moving up, and I've been moving up steadily since October. It's a wide open race. T-shirts don't win elections. There you go. So that's Maya Wiley. And if we look at Maya Wiley's numbers, she says she's moving up. So let's see here. Maya Wiley had 8% of people saying that she was their first choice back in January. And in March, she has 6%. Now, in fairness to Maya, everybody saw some erosion in this January to March comparison. She has 6%. She's number 3 according to this March poll. So I think she has every right to say that, hey, don't count me out. Now, she does have about, a little less than a little more than a third of Yang support. And then of Yang supporters, let's see how many will go to Wiley. Well, about 8% would go to Wiley for those who like Yang. Wiley, yeah, her supporters, a lot of hers are going to go to Yang if she doesn't make it sort of, over the threshold. So interesting. So that's a little bit of a dig on Yang by Wiley saying, hey, my daughter has a Bernie T-shirt, just because you're popular doesn't mean you're going to win elections. That's fair. It's a fair argument. I mean, I think if you like Yang, bro does not have it locked up at all. He's the front runner. He's a front runner in a race where there's a ton of people undecided. New York City mayoral candidate Yang shows shift in bringing talent to the city. Yang is right to fight Asian American anti-Asian hate crime. 5 takeaways from the NYC race. Let's take a look at that. All right. Number 1 takeaway. The candidates take direct aim at Yang, which is not surprising. I mean, he is a front runner, so why wouldn't they? Okay, this is what... Who's saying? Stringer is saying... Whether it's an illegal casino on Governor's Island, housing for TikTok stars, or being baffled by parents who live and work in 2-bedroom apartments, kids in virtual school, we don't need another leader who tweets first and thinks later. So I think this is Stringer comparing Andrew Yang to Donald J. Trump. So there you go. And then the Yang response was, Andrew Yang is going to keep talking to New Yorkers about his plans to get the city safely reopened and people back to work. We'll leave the tired 1990s negative campaigning to others. Definitely heating up. Candidates are reluctant to decriminalize all drugs. And friends with money. The latest campaign filing revealed that Ms. Wiley has friends in Hollywood. Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can bring that up for you guys. I think I have some data about money. The money race. Let me see if I can pull that up. I think I bookmarked it. Give me a second, folks. Oh, man. Logging in. I sent myself a link to this. Yang Finance. Yeah, baby. Okay, so if you go to the oh, come on, load. Come on, interweb. NYC CFB.info site. I know you guys probably hang out there all the time. It used to pull up the details, but now the site's not loading. Boo. Let me see if I can find it in another source. NYC Mayor Finance Filings. Oh. The finance summary report is being updated and is temporarily unavailable. Please try again in a few minutes. All right. Well, this is what happens. Maybe the NYC CFB.info site needs Yang to kind of help them fix that. All right, let's move on to we were doing the takeaways, right? Yeah, here we go. We'll come back to that later. Yang received $2,000 from Jessica Seinfeld, the wife of the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, and Siggy's Yogurt and founder of Kind Bars. Adams has the most money. Adams has more money than the Yang? Wow, $7.5 million. Morales has the most individual donations. She's got 9,000. Oh man, I really wish I had the data so we could look at it in a table format. Let me see if maybe New York Times has a link. No, hold on. No link from the New York Times. I'll let you know if our friends at the NYCFB Finance Board update their thing. All right. Donovan versus the Wall Street Journal. criticizing the editorial board for turning a blind eye to the racist and un-American remarks by Mr. Trump. Okay. And then, story behind Yang's omnipresent scarf. You know it must be a slow news day when they're writing about his scarf. I frankly, don't really care about Yang's scarf. But, at any rate, so those are the 5 takeaways. Let's see anything else in the news. This Politico says that Yang continues to dominate the field. I don't know if I'd call it dominate the field unless they're looking at different numbers. Yeah, like this is where I'm not sure if the journalistic integrity is great. Like this is the number, 16%, and this is the headline. Yang continues to dominate. Bro ain't dominating. It's 16%. But yeah, okay. I guess it's better. I mean, look, we complained when the media was too negative about Yang. Now I feel like they're a little bit too positive, at least in this case. I know the New York Times is definitely not too positive about Yang. They, I don't know what their deal is, but they're not too positive about him. Okay. Let's look at the social media trends. But before we do that, let me give a thank you to some of the supporters of the Nerds for Humanity channel. And we're going to start with our highest level, which is the vice president level. Now, I will say that we do have a senior vice president and executive vice president levels. And if you join at that level and you ever have like a message you want me to read out to the audience from you about whatever, political stuff you're interested in, that is a perk of being a senior VP. But let's start with our VPs, currently our highest members. We're going to do it by total time as member. V Lamb, JM Sap, Fat Lamb, Kristen Slevin, Soldier One. Let me make sure my head is not blocking this. There we go. Laura Lane, Patrick Dunn, Bike, and Mindful Skeptics. So thank you. Get out of the way. There, Mindful Skeptics. Okay, now we'll go to hardcore level. And we're sorting this guy. Golly. Yeah. Mike, Gene, David, Tracy, DK, Phoenix, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Byram, Mona, Susan, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Statner, Galessa, Jay Perrin, Annalisa, Jay Bryan, Vivian, and Dana. I keep blocking. Hold on. I can fix this. Let me move myself over here. All right. So thank you. Did I read? Yes, I showed all of them. Vivian and Dana. Okay. Thank you to the hardcore. And now we're going to go to the verified. We have Helen, Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Brian, Peter, Arez, Your Mommin, Sophia, Jedwiga, Gail, Shake and Make, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Nell Nieves, Lori, Ben, Roger, Lisa, Christina, Vaughn, Rastafasta, Richard, Jessica, James, Jalopy, Emma, Spirited, Hue, Stephen, Ira, Shoni, Philip, Jameson, Dr. A, William, Karen, Monica, Alex, Ardent, Mai, Semery, Brittany, Clyde, Wanna See More, and Sasha Alexandra. Oh, it's cut off there. Ah! What just happened? Hold on. Can you see Sasha's name? No, we can't see Sasha's name. Hold on, I'll do it this way. There, Sasha, you're up there. You just joined. I think those are all of our thank yous. Now, let's go to the social media trends. Back to the data at hand. Okay, move my face. away from the data. Okay. And we're going to look at Adams, Yang, and Stringer, the three kind of front runners. Okay, so clearly Yang has way more. 2 million versus 14K and 5K. Can you believe that Eric Adams has only 5K Twitter followers? But let's be honest, bro is number 2, so Twitter is not elections. And what's also interesting is when you look at daily new followers, you see actually quite a tightening. Andrew Yang did add 128 on March 27th. But, you know, Adams and Stringer added about 30. And then on March 26th, Yang added 140. Stringer added close to 50. Oh, let me move this. There. Hopefully that's better. And then on the 24th, Yang added 300. So he's adding about 10 times more on that day. But, you know, it's not like he's not blowing them out. So we gotta kind of be really careful about kind of dancing in the end zone when this chart looks, you know, pretty close. Like the Yang is the blue line. That's the number of new Twitter followers. And he's doing good, but he's not like crushing them. So that blue line is not way ahead of the purple and red lines. There you go. Okay. So I think that's the Twitter stuff. Let me see here. Yeah, that's Twitter stuff. Now let's look at search, Google. More people are searching for... Mama, what is going on here? Okay, so Yang is... I gotta find a way to share this better than this. I think what I'll do... What if I maximized? Oh, is that a little better? Not really. Sorry, guys. Just bear with me. All right. Move that guy there. Yeah, okay. So the blue line... F it. I'm just going to make it smaller for you guys. Sorry. Oh, my God. It's like, who is this guy? Why does he suck at sharing his screen? It's not like he hasn't been doing it for freaking over a year. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh, I think it's because I'm using some new stuff. But the blue line is searches for Yang. And then you've got the yellow is the next one, searches for Adams. And you can see here that, there we go. That's how you do it. Yang has about double the searches for him as there are for Adams, and then maybe 6 times as much for Stringer and 12 times as much for Wiley, at least on March 27th. On March 26th, let's do past 30 days. So on March 23rd, you see way more. But then on March 24th, similar with Adams. I mean, the blue line is definitely more than the others. And then in the past day, you see, yeah, you know, more blue searches. So, but it's not a blowout, guys. Not a blowout here. Like that yellow line could quickly jump up as other people drop out. So keep an eye on Mr. Adams. Let's see. What are people searching for? They're searching for Andrew Yang's ethnicity. Really? Bloomberg, Schumer, and a rally. If they're searching for Stringer, they tend to search for his mother and Yang. Nice. If you're searching for Stringer, that's what we like to see. And then Garcia Morales. And then if they're searching for Eric Adams, they're also searching for Eric Bledsoe contract, Steve Adams contract. I don't even know why they're searching for that stuff. But unfortunately, what you'd like to see if they're searching for Adams is a related query being Yang. So it sounds like Yang's going to pick up more from Stringer than he might from Adams. And then for Maya Wiley, they're also searching for Sean Donovan and Diana Morales. And for McGuire, they're searching for Adams. So TLDR on the search data is that Yang is leading the pack for searches, but I think it's closing. Because look at this. If you look at the 30 or even 90 days, that blue line used to crush, right? Used to crush all the other lines, like back in January when he announced. And now it's, it's much tighter. So they're kind of bunching up. Okay. And just so you guys know, these search numbers are just for people from New York, New York. If we did national, which, I guess we could. But I'm guessing Yang will just destroy. Yeah, I don't know if it's called destroy, but he's basically way more national interest in Yang than any of the others. But we don't really care about national. We care about New Yorkers because those are the people that are going to vote. So we're going to go New York, New York. And that's where you see, a little bit more action for the other candidates. Can you do that? No. I gotta say New York, New York. Okay. So yeah, more searches for him than others, but definitely not running away with it, right? Okay. You guys wanna go into betting odds. By the way, if you're finding this data useful, interesting, all that good stuff, don't forget to like and share. Please hit that like button, as Elizabeth Norris was just reminding us. Hit that like button. All right. Let's see here. All right. We're going to move on now to betting odds. Okay, Yang. 57 cents. So that's great. That's moved up a little. Last time I did it was around 50. Eric Adams, second most likely, according to the gamblers. And then McGuire, Stringer, and Wiley are kind of bunched up. Looks like Wiley's kind of bumped up a little bit from 5 cents to 6 cents. So, yeah, I kind of agree with that. He's not crushing it in the polls. But if you had to pick one candidate most likely to win, you'd have to say it's more likely Yang than anyone else. But, we'll see. All right, what is Yang talking about on the Twitter himself? He is talking about, asking people to volunteer, do calling parties. There's going to be a Yang the City kickoff. Kanji and dim sum. Yang is like a bit of a food blogger lately. I love his food pictures, and he does have access to some pretty good food options in NYC. Register and vote in Jamaica. Call phone banking. Talk to someone in California who can't wait to visit NYC as soon as they get vaxxed. Yes, I would like to visit that too. Now, what's this? Lee Wong, an elected official in Westchester and U.S. Army veteran, took his shirt off to reveal the scars he received during his service. Is this patriotic enough? He asked about Stop Asian Hate. Wow. So, yep. So Yang, looks like Yang probably retweeted George Takei talking about that. We got the Yang t-shirt. Oh, by the way, Nell Nieves, thank you for sending me a Yang t-shirt. I will be wearing it. My diet has not been working as effectively, so I just ordered a Fitbit to allow me to increase my physical activity so that my medium-sized shirt will fit a little more appropriately. Hopefully, we'll get that before the before the primaries. And he's talking about People's Bank. All right, so that's Yang on Twitter. Pretty straightforward stuff. Not a lot of controversy. I think the biggest controversy with Yang was when someone was saying Yang had not had a real job. Yang, not held a job. Who was saying that? Do you guys remember? Oh, was it Eric Adams? Yeah. Adams, people like. Something about people like. Let's see if we can find it in the Daily News. So Eric Adams says, this city is made up of workers. This is not a startup. Okay. And what else is he saying? Eric Adams touted himself as the only blue-collar candidate running for the top post and blasted a rival for never holding a job in his entire life. Wow. Who's that? Who never held a job his entire life? This is a city where the leader must have been a worker. People like Andrew Yang never held a job in his entire life. And you're not going to come to this city and think you're going to disregard the people who make the city work. Wow, that's pretty, those are pretty stark words, Mr. Adams. I'm pretty sure Yang did work. I think he was an attorney. Then he was a startup co-founder. Then he was a VP at a startup. And then he ran a nonprofit, Venture for America. So I'm not sure why they don't think that that's work. I mean, like, he hasn't, now in fairness, Yang hasn't worked in a, like, maybe not in a blue collar job. Maybe that's what Adams is suggesting, which might be true. But I don't know. And what is that? What did Adams mean when he said people like Andrew Yang? What does that mean? People like Andrew Yang. You're not going to come to this city, but he's been living in that city. I think he lives, I don't know if he's in the Upper West Side or, I'm not sure, maybe by Hell's Kitchen. But I think Yang's been in New York City. Let's see. How long has Andrew Yang lived in NYC? Let's see. Let's see. I can't easily find the number. I thought it was 15 years. But maybe if you guys know in the chat. Andrew Yang lived in NYC for how many years? Maybe Wikipedia has it. Well, I'm pretty sure bro lived there for at least 15 years. But I don't know. Oh, Austin Mann says it might have been 24. Tim Small says it's 25 years. Yeah, okay. So if it's 25 years, I guess I don't get why you would say, why would Eric Adams then suddenly suggest that, like, oh, you can't come, people like you can't come to this city. He's been in the city. And what is people like you? I don't get that. Any rate, and then saying that he's never worked and never held a job in his entire life. So, yeah. And then it's criticizing him. Oh, I didn't go to Harvard and Yale. I don't think Yang went to Harvard and Yale either. I'm pretty sure Yang went to Brown and Columbia. But I know a lot of people like to say that he went to Harvard. But I'm sure the Harvard Alumni Association would not agree with that. Nothing against Columbia. It's a great school, and Brown. Those are great places. So at any rate, that's Adams taking the gloves off, as they say. This is politics. You know, if your biggest criticism of Andrew Yang is that he worked as an attorney and as a founder of a nonprofit and was an ambassador for entrepreneurship for Obama, and then started another nonprofit that gave tons of money away to people in need. I don't know. I think Eric Adams, I don't know if that's going to stick. And I don't know if saying like people like Andrew Yang aren't going to come to this city. It's not very inclusive language, in my opinion. But, I know Adams is trying hard to challenge the front runner. So I understand why he's trying to what's the word they use? Draw contrasts. But I don't know. That's not the way that I would do it. At any rate, next so that's basically a summary of the Yang campaign. TLDRs. Polling, numero uno, but numero uno only 16% and 50% undecided. So numero uno asterisk. Betting odds over 50% probability, but would you get on a plane if they told you that it was 50% chance of landing? So I wouldn't hang my hat on that. News coverage generally positive. A lot of sniping from Eric Adams. Maya Wiley saying that Yang is a celebrity. And then Eric Adams saying that Yang never worked and went to Harvard and Yale, which he did not. But that's that. And then what else? That Adams raised more money. Let's see if that New York financial site I doubt it's been updated since we started this stream, especially since it's a Saturday. Let me see if I can find another source. NYC Mayor Finance. Mayor race. Because I thought that was interesting. Oh, boo. Yeah. Well, maybe this one. Is there a table? No. Sorry, guys. But just know that Yang is not outraising his competitors. So if you were thinking like, I don't think I'm going to give money to Yang, you may want to reconsider, because he's not outraising his competitors, and New York is an expensive place to run for office. So just be advised. And if you want to give money to Yang, please consider doing it via the Nerds for Humanity official giving link, which is tinyurl.com/nerds-NYC, because if we can raise some more money for him, we might be more likely to get Andrew Yang back on the Nerds channel. In fact, by the way, if you're watching this, there was a fun tweet from Zach, from the Zach Ruman, and he was saying, hey, who do you want to come on Yang Speaks? And someone was like, it'd be cool to get Nerds for Yang on there. So if you want to see me on Yang Speaks, I think it would be a fun conversation. Let me see if I can find a link to that tweet. Come on, where the heck is it? Give me a moment. Where the hell is it? No, let me just search for Zach. Zach Grauman. Okay. Ah, here it is. Okay, so on March 23rd, I'll put a link in the live chat, and I'll share what I'm looking at. So first of all, so Zach on March 23rd was like, hey, who do you want to see on Yang Speaks Next? And then Boyce from Mindful Skeptics, thank you, Boyce, for mentioning me, said, hey, it would be good to see Nerds for Yang and other supporters who have dedicated the past 2 years to this movement. This could be a cool gesture. And I was like, yeah, man, that'd be fun. We could talk about the Asian American experience. We could look at the data behind the next big jobs bill, or we could look at some data about the state of NYC. So if you agree, go ahead and jump on this thread. You can retweet it or like it, or just say, yeah, I would like to see Tom and Andrew on Andrew's show. But also, I'd like to see Andrew back on the Nerd Show. So, yeah, just thanks in advance if you want to kind of make that argument. So, I was summarizing. So we talked about polls, betting odds, news coverage, social. You know, this is if I had to give one headline for the Yang NYC state of the race, it's he's leading, but it's tightening, and it's not a done deal. So if you want to give money to Yang using that link, and that goes all to Yang, but it gives the Nerds channel credit, so we could say, hey, Andrew, can you come back on the show? We've helped you raise money. Whoa, someone named Tom Leung just said hi. That's weird. I wonder if my kids are using my, or maybe there's another Tom Leung. Weird. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Elizabeth Norris rightfully acknowledges that Boyce is the man who has been promoting the Nerds movement. All right. Now, I wanted to show you some of the candidates on ofthepeople.us because they are the ones who are putting themselves out there trying to Tom says I am Tom. I don't even know who the hell that is. All right. So ofthepeople.us, it's a nonprofit that I volunteer for and helped co-found. And it's basically an easy way for local candidates to make themselves discoverable. And then if you are out there and you want to donate to them, you know, if they're running for a local office, it's going to probably carry more weight, your donation, than if you donate to, like, you know, some big national campaign. Or if you can do both, that's great. So for candidates, I just want to call out some of the most recent ones. We have Christy Seelock, who goes by Vigurant, I think, on Twitter. Mary Maloney, James Russell, Alan Lee, Fry Sandlin, Sharon Lund, Andrew Lignani, Austin Searle, Ali Dalzimer, Erica Rhodes, Eric Storzand, Amy Washburn, Yenny DeRoche, Ryan Stark, Adriana Aviles, and then that's a test account on my own. So if you're curious about any of these candidates, you want to learn more about them, go to ofthepeople.us, and then you can click on it, and you can just see a little bit more about them, or you can see a link to their official campaign site. You can also filter, like hey, I want to see people who are supporting the Green New Deal. Or you could say, I want to see people who are supporting UBI and the Green New Deal. And then you can get like kind of a filtered list. So check it out. It's all volunteer. And we just added a new feature where our customer success volunteers can help candidates improve their profiles. And then we're working on a new feature, which is going to be really cool, where our volunteers can create profiles for candidates so that we can add more. We don't have to rely on the candidates to add themselves, and then we can give them a magic link to claim and further edit their profile. So that's kind of part of the growth hacking. Another thing that we're doing is we're going to be sorting the /candidates list, not right now, but probably in a few weeks. We're going to sort it by who had the most recent favorites. So that will then allow us to have this list to be a little bit more gamified, and it'll be kind of a cool way to encourage candidates not only to put themselves on OTP of the people, but also promote it to their friends, and then the whole platform can grow. And again, this is a nonprofit. So if you want to support of the people, you can also support us on Patreon. All the money just goes to technology development costs. Again, we're all volunteers, so nobody's making money off of this. All right, so that's OTP update. Next, if you guys want, I can tell you a little bit about, a little bit of a Twitter debate I got in this morning with Problem Solver Politics. So it all started because Fred the Felon. You guys want to hear a little bit of, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is like not really interesting to you guys. Do you want to do you want to hear a little bit about some Twitter drama? I guess technically it's within the Yang Gang. And I love Problem Solver Politics, but I guess we just kind of had a strong disagreement about stuff. So let me know in the chat if you're interested in talking about that. Basically, PSP and I were arguing about COVID response of the U.S. And, if you're interested, I can kind of walk you through some of that debate, but I also know this is a weekend, and so people may be busy. So I'll wait for a minute or two in the chat, and we can also do an Ask Me Anything. So Elizabeth Norris, she says, hey, I want to hear about some drama. All right. Mochalek says, yeah, all right. Okay. Thank you. All right. We got you. Thank you. All right. I just want to make sure I wasn't boring you with like, why is he talking about this? So, okay. So it all started with our boy, Fred the Felon, who I consider a friend. And Fred was like, hey, look at this now. Is that how that works? Hold on. I thought I could move this. No. Okay, whatever. So Fred the Felon was like, hey, how did 3 weeks lockdown to flatten the curve turn into over a year, right? And I was like, a lockdown is only as strong as the weakest implementer. And then I was like, look at Singapore. They have like literally 12 new cases of COVID on March 26th. And that's the chart you want, right? You want like massive containment of this pandemic. And so I was like, that's that. And then Problem Solver Politics, this is where the drama started, said, hey, Singapore has half the population of LA County. I imagine that makes things a bit easier. And so I was like, I think you're kind of twisting things a little bit. Of course, Singapore only has a few million people, but the fact that they have 12 cases has to say something about their ability to contain this pandemic. So then he was like, yeah, they only have half the population of LA County. So then I was like, well, LA County has 50 times the new cases as the entire country of Singapore. So yes, Singapore is half the size of LA County, but Singapore has 1/50th the number of cases as LA County. And so you would think that LA County, if they're twice as big, maybe they should have twice as many cases. And then Problem Solver Politics said, I am no math genius, but I'm pretty sure with the virus spread, that is how things would work out. It isn't one person gets one person sick. Then Joel is talking about R naught. And then I said, look, I think it's mandatory quarantine for international travelers and mandatory testing and mask compliance. It's kind of like, it's not rocket science at this point with this pandemic. We know that masking, distancing, testing, quarantine for travelers, temperature checks, contact tracing, like we've all heard this a million times. It's not like we're in month 2 of this pandemic. We kind of now have figured out what works. And then PSP says, well, how many of those countries are as large as the US? I don't think it's some conspiracy that larger countries are having a harder time. And then where I don't want to get into everybody else's debate. And then I said, oh, maybe that's it for me. But yeah, I think at some point I was like, well, wait a minute. Let me see if I can go to find myself here. Hold on. Tweets and replies. Then I said to Fred, dude, Fred noticed this. And Fred was like, hey, this is not a political post. I'm just pissed there's no lobby at this restaurant and I can't get my semi through the drive-thru, so I can't get my pizza. Okay, so here, then in a separate thread, then I said, okay, so, sorry. PSB was like, hey, these are not large countries. There's not some conspiracy. Large countries have problems. And I was like, hey, man, Japan is a large country. It has 125 million people. And they had 1/35 of the new cases as we did yesterday. So it's not just like, oh, tiny countries like Singapore are doing a better job, but 125 million people in Japan, that's a pretty big deal. And then PSP said, well, island nations have been doing very well. There's no conspiracy here. And then I was like, come on, like I got a little bit frustrated here because I was like, wait a minute. It's too dangerous to promote this narrative that like, oh, there's nothing more we can do in the U.S. We're doing such a great job. And unless you're an island, like just everybody should do whatever they want. And so I felt like that was a kind of a false comparison. It's like, oh, well, unless you're an island, you don't need to do anything. So then I was like, wait a minute, is Canada an island? Canada, like what's Canada is not like some little tiny island. And then PSP said, oh, look here. As far as I know, Canada is struggling to keep things under control and is actually increasing lockdowns because it isn't working well enough. And he showed, thank you, PSP, for this data. And then what I said was like, well, actually, you need to look at the per capita and compare it to the U.S. per capita. Because the fact that Canada has a chart that looks like this, you're not really, yes, you want to compare the shape of the curve, but you want to look at the absolute number. And Canada had 5,000 new cases yesterday, and the U.S. had like 75,000 new cases. So that was my argument. So, but at any rate, that got a little, then I think I pretty much decided that I was getting a little too passionate about the need for this country to take this pandemic seriously, and that it's not going to be, it doesn't help when states sort of just throw open their doors and say like, everything's fine. Because then other states who are trying hard it's sort of like limits the effectiveness of a mitigation, which goes back to my original point of, hey, you know, a mitigation or a lockdown is only as strong as its weakest implementer. You know, like if we have open borders between Florida and Texas and the rest of the country, and they're all like saying, hey, you don't need to wear a mask, come celebrate spring break, and, you know, Florida's open for business and 100% occupancy in indoor, non-ventilated restaurants. Like that's, and then those people then redistribute themselves throughout the country with no quarantine. It kind of like screws it for everybody. So, at any rate, that was a little bit of Twitter drama. You know, I like PSP. They've been on my channel. I've been on theirs. Like, we all are supporting Yang. But when it comes to COVID, I disagree with this argument, because I've heard it from like my brother, the Trump supporter, who's like, oh, you know, if you're not an island, there's nothing more you can do. And that's kind of like a, can I use a word? It's kind of a bullshit excuse, if you don't mind my French. You cannot go around saying, we're not an island, we're such a big country, there's nothing we can do. It's like, no. There are things you can do. Give you some examples. When people come from other countries, they should have to test before they get on that plane. And yes, Biden implemented that in January, but we had a year. Listen, let me just say this out loud. We had an entire year of this pandemic where anyone from around the world could fly into the United States and not have taken a COVID test before they traveled. A year of that. So I know the Trump supporters love to talk about how he banned flights from China. I don't know if they understand that he didn't ban flights from U.S. citizens who traveled through China, by the way, and permanent residents who traveled through China. And he definitely didn't require tests for people who are coming from Brazil or the UK or France, right? In his entire administration. And just so you know that I'm not like hating on Trump, as much as I appreciate what Biden has done, the fact that he hasn't required quarantine, mandatory quarantine, enforced monitored quarantine for people traveling from other countries into the U.S. Is also a concern. And you could argue, when you travel from Florida and Texas to other parts of the country, you should probably get tested as well. Say what you want about the Chinese, but when they travel from province to province, they require testing and quarantining. They would know why they want to do that, and it's not because they want to make Donald Trump look bad. Any rate, so let's see. If you guys have any Ask Me Anythings, I'm here for you before we wrap up. So ask me whatever you want, and I'm happy to discuss, or we can just kind of wrap up. And while I'm waiting for questions, I will say thanks again to all the members. And looks like Yang's in the lead, but if you can support him by volunteering or donating or just talking to people that you know that live in New York City that are thinking about voting, please help virtually canvass for him. If you want to donate money to the Yang campaign, use that link. And then on this COVID stuff, please continue to mask and distance, because let me show you why. COVID stats here. Let me show you why. What? That didn't do what I thought it would do. Hold on. I thought that's supposed to do this. There we go. All right. Here we have, let's take about all across the U.S. So in the last 30 days, oh, we should probably zoom out all time. You had the peak around, right around Thanksgiving. First peak was in the fall, like after the summer travel, when everybody was like, hey, it's done, it's disappearing. Then we had our terrible fall. Then you had your post-Thanksgiving peak surge. And then you had your post-Christmas surge. And then it's come down really nicely, very dramatically, all the way from January through Feb. But if you look at the last 30 days, it's been kind of flat. You know, there's still, as good as progress we've made, there's still 75,000 new cases yesterday in the U.S., which is higher, by the way, than the 7-day average. So if you're a believer, whoops, myself here. If you're a believer that we're kind of trending in the right direction, yesterday's cases should be lower than the 7-day average, but they're higher. So that's why you see the slope of this line is actually going up. Between, like, it kept going down, like 57,000 cases, 65,000 cases, 60,000, 58, 60, 34, 55. But then it looks like starting around March 23rd, it went from 56,000 new cases to 79,000 cases to 69 and now 75. So looks like our low point was around 50,000 cases or 35,000, but that I'm not sure what's going on there. But around 50,000 was kind of the general low level, and now it's in the 70s. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned. Now, if you look at Florida, we give Florida a lot of crap, but let's see, maybe they're doing a better job. Yeah, see, Florida, we'll say all time. They had their problems. They got it down to a low of about 5,000 cases in mid-March. But then, now they're almost 6,000 cases yesterday. And their 7-day average is about 40% lower than yesterday's cases. So this is like, if you're in Florida, this is not a good trend that you want to be looking at, right? Or if you say Texas, Texas is doing better, I would say. Like, we look at all time, they've gotten it down pretty nicely. And then if you look at their last 2 weeks, ooh, no, their new cases are also higher. 49,000 cases yesterday, but their 7-day average is 4,900 new cases versus 3,800 7-day average. So, and then if you look at, where else? Well, let's look at California. Let's look at a blue state. Like, California's doing okay, but its new cases are also higher than its 7-day average. So, nobody's out of the woods, guys. I mean, it's trending nicely, but you would wish that if you had followed the slope of this line on this 30-day average, 30-day time horizon, it went from 5,600 down to 3,500. And at that current rate, it should have gone from 3,500 to like 1,500, right? If you extend this line. But instead of 1,500, we're at 3,400. So there you go. Let's see. We have some questions from the audience, and then we'll wrap up. There are no more questions. Yeah, I agree with Jay Perrin that for the COVID stuff, look, I mean, and I was thinking about this the other day. Like, we are a country that has succeeded historically because of the great freedoms that we have, and where we don't have a lot of like kind of like excessive government intervention, and we just let people and states do whatever they want, and that has worked out generally well, with lots of exceptions, but generally it's worked out well. But a health crisis is one of those cases where if you just let people do whatever is convenient and comfortable, it actually could harm not only those individuals in the long run, but the entire community. And that's something that we as Americans, I would argue, are not really great at. We're not really great at passing the marshmallow test, where we say, hey, I'm going to give up something in the near term to then have benefits for myself and my community in the long term. That's not, we're more of I want kind of instant gratification. I don't want any limits on what I impulsively want to do right now. And I don't want to wear that mask, and I want to go inside that bar, and to hell with this pandemic. And when you have that attitude, like, that generally results in charts like we just looked at, where your daily new case rate is higher than your 7-day average new case rate. All right. Did you hear some Bay Area counties are starting to implement basic income? I did not hear that, Mochilex. I have heard of conversations around more pilots in that direction, and maybe in a future episode we can talk to one of the proponents of that. So if you guys know of any of the California basic income kind of advocates or people who are proposing or designing these new pilots, feel free to reach out to them and say, hey, love to get you on Nerds for Humanity, because I would love to interview them, and just tag me and I'll chime in. Question from Tom Leung: When will the people in New York announce who wins? So there's 2 dates that you need to be mindful of. In June, there's the actual primary. So the NYC mayoral primary, and I'm going to give you the exact date, 2021, is Democratic primary. Where the hell is the damn date? Seriously? Come on, Wikipedia. All right, let me find it. This is terrible. I know it's in June, but I was looking for the exact date. Does anybody know in the chat? When is NYC mayoral Democratic primary? Let's say June. Golly, June 22nd. Okay, thank you. June 22nd is the Democratic primary. And then the general election is on November 2nd. November 2nd. So to answer your question, Tom Leung, the primary is on June 22nd, and the general is on November 2nd. So if Yang wins the Democratic primary and he beats Adams, then most people believe that Yang will become mayor. Now, it's possible that the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York could lose, But to who? Like, what independent or Republican would challenge him? Unclear. So I would say, for all intents and purposes, if Yang wins in June, we're going to have the first Asian American mayor of NYC and the first mayor of NYC to advocate and propose a $1 billion basic income pilot. And that will be freaking amazing. So let's see if there's any other questions before I wrap. Mr. History Fan says, and New York COVID cases are surging. Does anyone know the reasons? Yeah, I think the reasons for cases surging in general are, I'm just going to speculate. One is lockdown fatigue and spring, kind of like spring fever, where people just want to get the hell out. I buy it. And that's why it's so frustrating, in my opinion, that we fought masking and distancing for so long, all of 2020, because the nuance here is that if we had done a better job of like light lockdowns, we would not have to have the heavy lockdowns. And so, you know, this is a classic case of like, if you kind of skip a dessert, you know, on your every other meal, then you don't have to do some massive like crash diet when you're majorly overweight. But we didn't want to do that. So we kept kind of stuffing our face with virus, and now here we are. So let's see. All right, Vaughn, we'll see you on the replay. Let's see. All right. Yes, Vaughn is right. Talia. I'm not sure. I think one of the boys are using my computer and they logged in as me. So I think that's it. Before we wrap up, if you're still here, and I know there's 40 people watching right now, can you please do me a solid? Hit that like button. I'll give you a preemptive bell. Subscribe. And then if you really appreciate this content, please consider becoming a member or upgrading your membership if you're already a member. Really appreciate it. Helps me produce more content. And I'll see you guys tomorrow's live stream, where we're going to talk about the history of Asian American hate in the U.S. And we're going to go back in time. We're not going to just start with Donald Trump. He'll be part of it. But we're going to talk about the 1800s and 1900s and how this isn't new, but maybe what is new is that the Asian American community may not just be kind of rolling over and sucking it up. And I think the Asian American community may need to start kind of actively self-advocating, because nobody's going to do it for us. So with that, I will say goodbye, nerds, and we will fade to black.